Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Yakuza 0 on the GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. I'll be doing 1080p, 1440p and 4K. To skip those sections of the video, check the timestamps down in the description. So first of all, I'll show you 1080p on the G4560 to show you that the G4560 can manage to get 60 frames per second on this game. It was very close to the i3 8100. Both of them got very decent results. The frame times were inconsistent in both of them. I'll talk more about that later in the video. After the G4560 section, I show you the i3 8100 once again on 1080p, and I'll be getting over 60 frames per second all the time, no problems whatsoever. Then I'll just enable 2x SSAA, which I don't recommend. I prefer to use DSR, to be honest. But the test is there if you want to see how it performs. Then I switch to 1440p, and once again by using the maximum settings I stay over 60 frames per second. So yeah, 1440p in my opinion is a great way to get rid of the aliasing in this game. If you're still over 60, the game looks great. And finally at 4K I disable FXAA, lower shadows to medium, geometry to high. That was enough to be over 45 frames per second. The game likes to fluctuate a little bit, so when some particle effects show up, you might see some drops into the low 40s, or when the characters are doing some cinematic stuff, for example in a cutscene or something like that, the game can drop that low, around 40, but overall while just fighting, you're usually at 50 frames per second minimum, so yeah, the game is still very responsive. But if you don't care about those drops, just play at 4K, the game is still completely playable. In the options menu, the options that gave me the worst performance, first of all, were SSAA, which is super sampling anti-aliasing. Is one of the most demanding anti-aliasing solutions out there, so I recommend you avoid this one unless you have a very high-end GPU and you're playing on 1080p or something like that. Then FXAA quality is not a big impact in performance, but if you want a couple extra frames, it's a good option to turn off. Then shadow quality is the other one that really makes a difference in performance. If you lower it from ultra to high, you don't get much of a difference in performance, but once you hit medium or low on shadows, that's when you see the massive difference in performance. Then the geometry quality didn't make much of a difference in performance to me, but if you lower it, you'll see significantly more pop in on the objects at the sides of the street, so I recommend you keep this on ultra or high. And that's pretty much the options menu. SSAA, once again, just avoid it. Even if you have a 1050 Ti for example and you want to see less aliasing, just use DSR from the media control panel, force 1440p, and you'll see better edges. In my opinion, that's a better option, and you'll notice across all my videos that the frame times are very inconsistent, because when I get very high frame rates, it usually lowers the GPU usage, especially on the i3 8100 and G4560. It's kind of random. It happens while you're running around in the city. So in the consistency side of things, the G4560 versus the i3 8100, it wasn't a huge difference. The G4560 sometimes had rougher drops in the frame time when we were running around, but overall I didn't see a huge difference. So if you want better performance, I will get something that has higher clock speed or more cores. Other than that, you have some extra frame time spikes. You can still play the game just fine. And this was originally a PS3 game. Then we got a PS4 version in English, but the PS3 version remained in Japan. So in some ways it was to be expected to get this kind of performance. And one weird thing that happened to me was when using ultra settings, when the street fight starts, for some reason you get a higher frame rate. I'm not sure why, but it always happens using ultra settings. You'll notice that on my 1050 Ti and 750 Ti videos is where it's the most obvious difference. As an example, on the 750 Ti I was on 1080p max settings. It was between 55 and 60 frames per second. The fight started, it went up to 65 frames per second, and then when I was just running around the city, I was no longer below 60 frames per second. So there's something weird going on with that. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
ちょっとお前、その目つきが気に食わねえ。なんなんだ。せいや。バカな。勘弁してくれ。悪かった。
おお。スキー連れてってよ。何ですかその。
ちょっとその顔が気に食わねえ。邪魔だ。すいませんでした。またまた焦りでんじゃないですか。 っとお前殺すぞ俺は。何なんだ。バカだ。嘘だろ。お前強すぎんだろ。
スキー連れてってよ。何ですか
おい、ちょっと寄付してもらおうか。後悔許してくれ。ほら、出すもん出せ。後悔する。ほら、出すもん出せ。後悔するな。勘弁してくれ。この通りだ。
スキー連れてってよ。これ流行ってるらしいよ。
おい、そこのお前。その態度が気に入らねえ。後悔する。ごめんなさい。
お前ふざけんなよ。
ちょっと下がら。
黙って金出せ。
やんのか。
よろしく。スキー連れてってよ。 社長さん、寄ってて。
ちょっとそこな。
邪魔だ。